Okay, it's 3 past the hour and time to start. So, good morning, everyone. And so I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Today, we're just going to focus on product updates and what we've basically kind of been doing this week. So, um, you can see my screen. Just waiting for it to load. So, um, okay. So the first thing is essentially we've been working on what has been one of the things that everybody has been talking about, which is simplifying the notifications. And what you are seeing right now is basically that earlier you used to essentially configure the integration, then you had to essentially go do a company mapping, and then in terms of notifications and all of those pieces, we essentially had another set of items that essentially you had to go to a different place to essentially configure all of these. Now we've essentially made it extremely simple. You can essentially define your event sets per integration, and you can essentially then map these in the managed company mapping. When you map a company, you can essentially look at, you can basically enable the notifications right there. You can create the notifications out there, and then you can essentially do it per company. You can do it across companies. You can choose whether you want to essentially kind of monitor that particular event, you want to enable configuration for the company, or you basically don't want notifications for it. All of this essentially in a single screen, so that you essentially don't have to go through 2 or 3 screens in order to configure the notifications. This essentially was, in fact, I should just thank Andrew Watasco, because he worked with us in terms of getting this delivery done. He basically gave us feedback multiple times as we basically worked through this process to make this extremely easy for people to essentially kind of set up notifications, which is a little bit painful. It is quite painful right now, but we are hoping that with this, it is going to be much easier for everyone to do this. We are right now, basically, we've already migrated 2 regions. The remaining regions, all of the rules are getting migrated. With that, this will get rolled out to all the regions. So this is essentially hot off the pan, literally, as you can see. The next is that when we basically went to talk about the AMD processor, basically that are Windows 11 compatible, we basically have, we had support for the Intel process, but essentially AMD was not there. Now we have essentially complete support for all the AMD process. So essentially we are looking at all the AMD process and basically giving compatibility for the AMD process. The third thing is that when we basically released the PII scan, we only had a global view. You couldn't basically look at the PII view under a specific asset. So now you can essentially see all the PII data under the assets. This PII data under the assets is essentially something that you can use in order to basically remediate it on an asset by asset basis. And also we've essentially kind of categorized. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have a categorization of the different types of PII. And basically, based on the type of PII, the counts basically are visible over here. And so when you click on that, you can essentially see which files basically have this particular form of PII. We got quite a bit of feedback in terms of certain people saying that some PII was not identified, etc. My only request is if you folks can basically kind of send us a sample file which shows what kind of data is not being detected, because there are very specific things. For example, if you take the credit card, right? The way that it works is basically you have bins for credit cards, right? So you have MasterCard has a certain bin, and Visa has a certain bin. So this basically takes into account those bins. So unless the card number is basically from a bin, which basically is of Visa, MasterCard, Diners, all of these, or American Express, etc., it will essentially not basically flag that as a credit card. Now, again, this is being done to lower the false positives, but if you are missing anything, please let us know, because that essentially is what we are doing right now. The next one is basically we have in the report builder, you can essentially create printers as a list of, you can get a list of printers in the report builder. Then we also have all the AD users logged in in the last 30 days, that is essentially available raw in the report builder. And then again, logged in, not logged in, all of the details are available. All AD GPOs which are inactive, again, basically we've created a new this thing in report builder. And all the active policies in the AD GPOs, again, created out there. And we also have all AD computers that have essentially been active in the last 30 days. That is essentially they have been logged into last 30 days. Empty versus non-empty OU graph, basically, which is required. AD groups, which is empty versus non-empty groups over there. The third is system aging under the assets. Under each asset, basically, what is the system aging that is basically being shown out there. And then again, any assets which are not domain joined, basically as a separate table is available in the report builder. We also have what are the domain controllers. That was a separate table that was requested by a lot of you. So we've added that too over here. All the security groups in the Active Directory, basically you can now add as a widget over here. So that essentially is this thing. Then we also have a new event in the event set. Earlier we had just the concept of like if a critical alert or major alert, the count increases, decreases, etc. Now there are basically filters where you can essentially say if there is a new vulnerability detected, I want basically notifications to be sent to me, or I want an alert to be created. So this will create the alert. And then, as I said, we basically have now provided you with the new set, which is essentially any errors that you see in Azure, like for example, Azure token expiry, etc. That also can be added into the notification. So you can actually get a ticket created when an Azure token basically expires, which happens every approximately 3 months. So you have to go and revalidate it. So that essentially is something that we're working on. While I'm talking about Azure, we all know that basically Azure is moving from Azure Office 365 is moving from what they called as the DAL to GDAL. And there are quite a few people who asked us about GDAL. We are working actively on GDAL. However, the token process for GDAL is not functional from the Microsoft side, and we've opened tickets. And it looks like basically Microsoft actually responded back to us to a ticket today, saying that they are extending the DAL support till June because they have still not gotten this to work. So we are working actively with Microsoft to see how we will essentially migrate everyone to GDAL. Second is that their mechanism of doing the auto consent, which is basically if you're consented in DAL, will also be consented in GDAL. That part of it is still not functional. So when you migrate over, there are certain issues that will come up with it, because in case it does not, the consent does not get migrated, then you have to get customer consent once again, which might basically be problematic. And so we are basically working through all of these to see what can be done. But as of this time, GDAL authentication, if you basically migrate over to GDAL, you're not seeing the tenants. That is an issue because we are not able to authenticate against the token. And we are working actively on basically getting Microsoft to give us a solution on it. We will basically update you as soon as that is basically cleared up. And last but not the least, basically, we were asked for a last scan time in the external scan reports, which basically has been added. So what are we basically looking at from a team work perspective for this month? We basically are releasing the complete new UI this month, in fact, early first half of this month. Second is that we are going to be doing hardened testing of the PII scan and then releasing it this month. Then we have James Blunt, who basically gave us the complete requirements for Cyber Essentials Wizard for compliance, which we are basically going to be releasing this month. There is a lot of tickets where we are being asked for certain patching workflow improvements and adding new applications, which we have pipelined for this month. Last but not the least, we are working with an agency to essentially see how we can make better looking reports and get improved analytics into this whole space. From a technical perspective, just because all of you know the architecture that we are following, we are basically going to spend the next 3 weeks migrating away from Elasticsearch. We've had a slew of problems with Elasticsearch, especially with like a lot of errors in terms of timeouts, etc. And while we've basically kind of gone back and forth with the different teams, we have basically not gotten any answers, which basically are, it happens randomly. And then essentially there are no parameters that we are setting, which essentially explains why the issues are occurring. We've done a lot of optimization, etc., but still we see these errors randomly start popping up, and then it basically kind of creates a bad experience. So we are essentially migrating away from Elasticsearch into managed Postgres into AWS. So you will actually see much better times. In order to basically make sure that this will actually work in the long run, we actually migrated the entire vulnerability database, right? So when you do a scan, all of the applications are essentially kind of validated against a vulnerability database to figure out what vulnerabilities are there, etc. That database we already migrated to Postgres over the last 15 days. And whatever new results you're seeing essentially are coming from basically the Postgres database. And what we've seen is basically almost like a 10x jump in terms of performance. So we are essentially kind of moving all of the data into Postgres. We will still make two things available. One is essentially we are moving to a new dashboarding tool, which will also solve the problem of our reports not looking sexy enough, especially from a custom report perspective. That essentially we will solve using this tool, with this new tool. And second, we will also basically put summary data into the Elasticsearch, because we believe that those dashboards can still be running with just the summary data, but the core database essentially will be moved back into PostgreSQL. And we are also basically going to be able to give you, with this new engine that we are testing, we'll be able to give you the ability for you to define your own user interface. And in fact, that's essentially the direction that we are going into, which is we are essentially going to be, you're going to be able to define your own user interface, where you can essentially say that I want to run this kind of a query on this kind of data, and I want this widget. And you will essentially be able to keep those widgets in your area and make it your user interface. And of course, as I said, as part of this, we are basically giving the new dashboard and report engine. So this is what we are going to be working on this month. And at the end of this month, we'll basically kind of, once we are through with this, we'll basically present the report card in terms of how far we are there. And we will get feedback from you and basically make sure that we do the right thing by everyone. So this is what I wanted to kind of cover. So what I will do right now is to basically quickly go into the chat and look at any questions that people may have. Okay. A while back, we had some discussion on Potent integration into ServiceNow. Is there any chance we get an update? So Mike, yes, we've finished the integration with ServiceNow. We are going to be releasing it next week, basically because we also had a request from Andrew at Tusko for it, and it will basically be available. Adam, when will this be available? Adam, can you tell me which part of it? So PII scans, all of that was pushed to the on-prem today. Everything that is essentially there on the cloud is now on-prem.
Yeah, hi Shiva. Yeah, I see the PI scan is there now. It was the changes to the integration with ConnectWise that you were showing. That's not available on my instance at the moment.
Yeah, so we are basically finishing all the regions right now. So tonight it will be all cloud, and from tomorrow we'll start the on-prem.
Thanks.
Regarding Azure AD integration, can the default CSP account used as a default mapping for all clients? Yes, that's how we do it. You can basically integrate your CSP account, and then you can just do the mapping of the companies. Yeah, like in the point is that the reason you have to map each client, Sean, is that like if I pull the companies, right? If I can provide a mechanism by which I can provide like almost a match, saying that the left-hand side company and the right-hand side company are the same, but you want to essentially associate each company with the corresponding company on the left-hand side. That's the reason the mapping is there. We will see how we can make that far more simpler by essentially kind of auto-assigning the clients in case the names are the same. I will basically take that as feedback. But is there anything else that, Sean, you basically wanted to bring up here? Yeah, but that's what we're basically doing. Is there a report that shows AD users created in the last 30 days? I think we do this as part of the AD report. If not, basically, I think it's fairly simple to essentially kind of pull that. I will basically kind of get that for you. It is there in one of the dashboards, basically, but I think it's, you can just change the duration and then download it. But I will essentially, in case, but the point is that in your Active Directory, you can do this in two ways. One is you get real-time logs from the data that is there. Second, you can export all of the data that is there from AD perspective, and we essentially can get when where those users were created. So for a report on last 30 days AD, I will essentially get the team to get that report and get back to you, Chris. Could we organize a specific training session on report builder and a separate one for dashboards through? I would find that useful. Yes, we'll basically convert one of these calls as as a mechanism to do that. So that way we can essentially do that. In fact, what we want also to do as part of that session is we're going to kind of put it out there to get from you what are the reports that you would basically that you find useful today, and what are the reports that we should build to basically keep it relevant as we go in the future. Then is there a way to see the history of emails sent out that a scheduled report has sent out? Is there a way to revoke the links for the reports after they've been sent? So Jonah, yes, in the today, basically when you go to the jobs, any scheduled report, basically in the jobs, you will essentially see that you'll see the job corresponding to it, and you'll see the details of whether the email was sent. All of those details are in there. And the revoke the links, we don't have, it basically automatically gets revoked after 7 days. But in case you want to revoke it, we can provide an option to basically revoke the link. That's not a problem. Since the profiles of PRScan under global settings, do you need to create a profile for each client and then choose that profile for that specific scan? No, you can create profiles both at the global level as well as at the company level. The only thing is that if you created a company level, then the company level profiles are used. If you created at a global level, then the global level settings are used, which you can use in any company. SME, yes, we are all, yeah.
Quick things. I'm just curious about IASME. Paul, if you could just come up and request that you could kind of share more details, because as we were, I just did a quick Google. I don't see them doing any certification of a tool.
Yes. So IASME are the body which then look after Cyber Essentials in the UK. There is a list of certified vulnerability scanners, which then can be used for doing Cyber Essentials plus audits, and then they have to be at the PCI ASV. So they have to be the PCI ASV tools. Then in order to be on that list, so I can happily share that with you afterwards. I suspect going through the PCI ASV certification is probably quite onerous and might sort of hamper the speed of the development in the future. Although I don't know that much about that side of things.
So Paul, if you could, just send that over, after this call, maybe we can look at it separately.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Sure, I will do.
Yeah,
no problem.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, the next question from Justin is there a way to report on remediations from an SLA perspective? The answer is yes, we do basically now track when the remediation was open, when the remediation was closed, and with what it was closed. So all those pieces are available. The point which we need to essentially understand is that when you say basically critical versus high versus medium, then the way that we do it right now is to basically take the highest criticality of the vulnerability that is solved by a particular patch. Because when you look at an application and you look at a patch, like for example, Microsoft would release a patch which would essentially contain 2,500 vulnerabilities, right? And there may be 3 critical and 2 medium and major. So that's the only thing. But you have this data. From an SLA perspective, yeah, we have the time that it takes that is being reported on. If you want us to basically put an SLA on top of it, it might vary by application and vary by operating system. So we have to basically figure out like how to essentially take that data into the system. So we look into that part of it, but the data today is available. You can basically download the remediation report, which contains all of this data.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Is there a pre-built report in the system for this that actually maps it out by, let's say, criticality versus like having to download all the data and then maybe run queries
No.
against the CSV
No.
file?
It's a pre-built report. Rishal, are you on the call?
Yes, sir.
Vishal, can we basically take this as a question? We can respond back to Justin, taking that report and providing him the link to that report, right?
Sure, sir. I'll make a note.
Chris, one of the requests from my team is to have the scan task show the elapsed time so that we know how long the scans are taking to run. So we have the start time and we have the completed time. So yeah, elapsed time, we can basically put this in. Vishal, please add this. We'll just get this added into the job report.
Okay, sir.
With the reports, what level of customization could be? Could we take multiple data points and create a metric from them and generate a new data point within the reports? Example, number of devices, and deployed agent to say a deployment compliance metric. Jennifer, with the new reports that we're generating, yes, you can do this kind of customization. You can pull some of this data from the current Elasticsearch reports, but you can basically, yes, you can create what is called meta metrics. So basically, you can just create computed fields and you can essentially look at it. If you can send us a couple of examples of what you want to do, then we can essentially create those examples and send it back to you so that you can see how it is created. Mike, any chance of a ConnectWise Automate integration? The only thing which I will say is that yeah, we absolutely want to do the ConnectWise Automate integration, but essentially there is no API-based integration. So I believe that we have to write a plugin, which, and what would you basically like us to do with the ConnectWise Automate integration? If you can come on and speak about it, then it becomes easy for me to convey that to my team.
Yeah, it would be really nice to have an integration, especially a plugin would be probably the perfect way to, one, for the deployment of the CNS agents. Because like we have a script today which works, but it'd be nice if it would just kind of, I guess the best comparison would be the Acronis one, where you put in like an API key to Cyber CNS, map it up to a company, and then you can see it deployed at every new device that gets added.
Okay.
Just kind of for auto deployment. So when you add a new automate agent for deploying a new laptop, it automatically pushes the Cyber CNS agent.
Understood. So we need to write a plugin. Okay.
Yeah, I just think that would probably be the simplest way, because like I could think of a whole bunch of ways, like, because then even pass some of the information that's in Automate that Cyber CNS doesn't have. I could see the two of them working together being really handy.
Okay, perfect. So I got an understanding of that. So Peter, since you can help with this, if you can basically get kind of a system, a ConnectWise Automate system that we can use for our testing, I think it should be very easy to create a plugin and basically plug it into the system.
Yeah, I can check in with the folks over there and see if we can get, maybe part of the event program or something like that. We can get that all squared away. Oh, actually, we have one. Yeah, actually, we should be good to go.
Perfect. So
I'll get that to you though.
so Mike will take care of that.
Yep, that works. Thank you.
So Tim, your question is already answered. Perfect. Request from pass on the remediation page. Is there a way to show a graph of history of particular remediation where the patches at 11,000? Yeah, yes, Steve, we've already, we wanted to release that request. And in fact, that was one of the things which was actually causing a problem in terms of performance on Elasticsearch. So as soon as we migrate this over to Postgres, you will essentially see this small graph widget, which basically will come up over there.
Great, thank you.
Then for the PI scan, is there an example of what the include location field should be? Is it the FQDN of the machine and then the file share location? Yes, basically it should be the file share location so that it can, since it runs on the lightweight agent right now, it is just basically the local path on the machine. That's all you need to basically provide. It's already there, Tim. Autotask for ticketing is already there. So I think I've gone through all the questions and we've gone through the updates. If there's any other questions, then we can take that. Else we'll basically get back to doing this stuff. I think next week will be the week when we can essentially kind of do a preview of the UI. So the next week session is going to be a little longer, and we would like to get feedback from all of you and see what you like, what you don't like, and all of those pieces.
Actually, I got one little thing here. We did sign up with the channel program. So that's a platform for folks to review and rate different products in the MSP industry. So I just spun that up. If you all want to hop on there, give us a review, tell us what we're doing right, wrong, anything like that. Love your feedback and reviews on there. Plus, it exposes us to newer MSPs who haven't signed up for a program yet. Let them know what we're all about. I popped a little link in the chat. So if y'all want to take a minute to vote there or give us a little review, that's appreciated. Just want to throw that out there.
Yep. And Mark, yes, we will basically, once we have Automate figured out, yeah, Kaseya could be the next plugin. We'll come back to you just in case we need something to test on, because I don't think we'll be able to get something directly from Kaseya, but if you're able to test it, then we will be able to create the plugin. Not a problem. Oh,
Jennifer, I'll get you out.
then that's easy, then no problem. Perfect. So folks, thank you all for coming in and basically providing us with all the feedback. As I said, like next week will be a little bit of a longer session. So we want your feedback on the new UI and some of the things that we're doing over there. Once we go through that, then basically we will kind of, as I promised to everyone, there will be 2 URLs which will essentially be active for the next 3 months so that you have enough of time for training. And only after that, we will basically shut down the current URL. So you can basically have both the user interfaces during the time, and we will have no, you will not be forced to basically move to the new user interface immediately. That's it. Thank you all, and have a great week ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.